When Apple announced this small tablet, quite a few jaws dropped as it kept the crazy resolution of the larger iPad, ensuring record for an 8-inch pixel density. With this screen and a 64-bit A7 processor, Apple ensured quite a future-proof little slate, which however comes with a premium price tag. This is Daniel from Phone Arena pitting the iPad mini with Retina Display against the LG G Pad 8.3. This one here is one of the best small tablets Android can currently offer. And it comes with a Google Play Edition too, featuring a stock Android KitKat interface. Granted, it sports lower pixel density, but the difference is not very significant. Plus it has this trim metallic design too and offers expandable memory, all for a lower price tag than the iPad mini 2. Which one should you pick? Let's take a look. Apple's traditional 4:3 iPad aspect ratio is present in the Mini 2 with Retina Display, making it wider and more uncomfortable to hold than the elongated G Pad that rocks it 16:10. LG's tablet is taller but much less wide than the iPad mini 2, while the difference in thickness is negligibly in favor of Apple's tablet and the weight is almost equal too. Thus, for holding the tablet in portrait mode and reading or browsing, the LG Slate comes ahead as you can support it with one hand easier. The entirely aluminum iPad mini 2 chassis is also much more slippery, which adds to the lack of comfort when you try to pick it up and hold it with one hand. LG has put a metallic backplate on its G Pad 8.3, but the tapered metal back fuses with the plastic sides exactly where your fingers are clutching at the tablet. This increases traction and support, whereas with the iPad you have to almost fully stretch your fingers to keep it lodged, and that's if you have big hands. So holding it in portrait gets tiresome. In landscape mode, both tablets are equally comfortable to grasp and operate, with wide side bezels to rest your thumbs on. The metal keys around the iPad mini 2s feel more premium, and the power lock one comes to the side when you hold the tablet in landscape, making it much easier to press than the one on the G Pad 8.3, which goes on top. In portrait mode, the situation is reversed, hinting that the iPad mini 2 is best suited for landscape usage. The G Pad power lock key and its volume rocker are well placed, with decent tactile feedback to them, but still the cold metal buttons of the iPad feel more expensive and have an excellent tactile feedback, with a firm yet springy click to them when pressed. Apple's iPad also sports the traditional round physical home key, which exhibits the same great clicky feel, whereas the G Pad 8.3 relies entirely on virtual on-screen navigational keys. These buttons on the G Pad don't really take away from the screen real estate per se, as LG has laid them over a fully transparent background. The iPad mini 2, with its record pixel density for the size, evidently has the upper hand in screen definition. It's 7.9 inches 2048 by 1536 pixels display can truly be called Retina, as at 324 ppi pixel density you can't spot any individual pixels from a normal viewing distance, even with an eagle eye vision. This makes text extremely crisp and icons very defined. The LG G Pad 8.3 has quite a great screen too, albeit the 8.3-inch panel sports 1920 by 1200 pixels of resolution with lower 273 ppi pixel density. At that size, however, it would be hard to tell the individual pixels from the distance you would normally use such a tablet, unless you are with better than the average vision. Our screen quality measurements show that both tablets sport a spot-on color temperature, not leaning excessively to the cold nor the warm side of the spectrum, with a slight advantage for the G Pad 8.3. When it comes to color accuracy, both tablets are pretty good, but not as good as the best out there, as they just aren't sufficiently close to the standard RGB gamut. The iPad mini 2 gives way to the G Pad 8.3 here, with the average color error from a reference larger than on LG's tablet. We measured 450 nits of brightness for the iPad mini 2 against the G Pad's 345, so Apple's panel is up with the best tablet screens out there in that respect, save for the Lumia 2520 that sports 600 nits of peak brightness. Apple also managed to lay a pretty good anti-reflectance coating on the small tablet, so visibility outdoors is a tad better than on the G Pad. When it comes to viewing angles, both tablets have no issues whatsoever from each and every inclination. Colors and brightness barely shift even at extreme angles, so you don't have to hold the slates head-on while watching a movie, for example, in order to experience the true image quality that these two tablets are capable of. The iPad Mini 2 with Retina Display runs the latest iOS 7 version, which introduced the biggest interface overhaul since the beginning of iDevices. It sports flat, colorful icons, a rich content notification bar, and control center which flaunts connectivity toggles and other commands, and comes on when you flick up from the bottom of the display. The G-Pad runs Android 4.2 with LG's own interface overlay that puts swipeable connectivity toggles and the so-called Q-Slide apps in the notification bar. These apps can run in Windows on top of whatever else you're doing underneath, aiding your multitasking as you can open 2 windows at once and resize them as your heart desires. The tablet is also available as the first Google Play Edition slate, meaning you can find it with stock Android 4.4 KitKat. The default keyboard on the G-Pad 8.3 flaunts finger tracing functionalities similar to swipe, where you simply slide your fingertip from one letter to another until the word gets recognized. If you master this mode, it can be much faster than tapping away with your thumbs. Otherwise, the tablet size allows pretty comfortable two-thumb typing from both sides, with the ergonomics price going to the iPad Mini 2's keyboard, which sports large, well-spaced letters. The iPad Mini 2 carries the first mobile 64-bit processor, Apple's dual-core A7 coupled with 1GB of RAM, and a raging PowerVR GPU, while the G-Pad is powered by a 1.7 GHz quad-core Snapdragon 600 and has 2 GB of RAM. Both tablets feel very fast while scouring the interface and loading apps, but the iPad Mini 2 is just in another league with that processor, hitched to a 64-bit optimized software. Finger flicks and swipes feel instantaneous, apps load seamlessly, and overall performance just feels quite a bit smoother than on the G-Pad, despite a high screen resolution. The iPad Mini 2 can be had in 16 to 128 GB internal memory configurations, whereas the G-Pad comes with 16 and 32 GB versions, but unlike Apple's tablet, you have a microSD slot for adding up to 64 GB more if needed. The same stellar performance fluidity mentioned for the iPad Mini 2 interface goes to the stock Safari browser on the tablet, which renders pages crazy fast while scrolling, panning or zooming are a joy to use. Not that the stock Android browser or mobile Chrome on the G-Pad don't perform well, but say zooming follows your fingers with a fraction of a second delay, whereas on the iPad Mini 2 it feels like the screen zooms simultaneously with the spread of your fingers, as if it's attached with magnets to your fingertips. Unlike the G-Pad, Apple offers its Mini 2 with cellular connectivity and with a record 14 band support at that. That's LTE support. The rest of the wireless radios are pretty much common for both tablets, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.0 and GPS, while the G-Pad adds one infrared port at the top to control your TV and other home electronics from across the room. As for wired connectivity, Apple's Lightning port allows the iPad Mini to be hooked up to the HDMI port on your TV with the respective adapter cable, while with the G-Pad 8.3 you can also use a slim port converter if you want to connect it to the largest screen in the house. The iPad Mini 2 and G-Pad's photo galleries offer rich categorization options by albums, locations or timestamp, as well as editing modes built right into the interface. The iPad's one is better thought out, showing thumbnails for photos shot in portrait mode as they were captured and with wider separators, whereas the grid on the LG tablet simply cuts across equally sized rectangles. The iPad Mini's music player offers more categorization options than the one on the G-Pad, including artists, albums, playlists, genres, compilations, and even composers, or you can use the iTunes radio streaming service directly from the music app. The stereo speaker set on the LG tablet is more powerful than the iPad Mini 2 speakers, since they're on the back of the tablet. With LG, output is about the same when the G-Pad is lying down, compared to the Mini 2's bottom place speakers. Both pairs are of about average sound quality, meaning a relatively flat sound and some distortion towards the highest volume. Apple limits the stock video player to QuickTime or MPEG-4 videos, whereas the LG G-Pad can run all popular video formats out of the box, including MKV, DivX and XVD files, and that's up to 1080p resolution. Of course, you can always use a free third-party player like Rock 2 on iOS and load any video format to the players folder in iTunes. Apple iPad Mini 2 sports a 5-megapixel camera without an LED flash on the back, and the same setup is present on the G-Pad. Both tablets allow you to access their camera apps directly from the lock screen, but the interface similarities stop here. LG offers the full monty of scene modes and color effects you can apply to your pictures and videos, such as HDR panorama, virtual panorama, sports night and time machine. In addition, you can adjust the ISO or white balance settings if you want, thus its camera app appears more cluttered. The iPad mini 2 offers the most widely used options only, like HDR and panorama. The iPad's camera module, however, is extremely fast, with barely a shot-to-shot time difference between the normal and HDR shooting modes, unlike the G-Pad, which takes quite a bit of time to process HDR photos. Both tablets shoot photos with rather natural colors, representing correctly the real hues in front of the lens and with the level of detail expected from 5-megapixel camera modules. The thing is that the G-Pad slightly underexposes the scene in most situations, making the photos appear darker and more intense than in reality, while the iPad measures the exposure time correctly, translating into a much lighter but slightly noisier shot. Indoors, Apple's iPad fares even better, producing more defined, well-lit photos that represent the colors well, while keeping noise in check even at low light. Video is recorded by both tablets with fluid 30 frames per second in 1080p resolution. The LG tablet underexposes the footage slightly like the stills, making it darker. The iPad mini 2 gives a more realistic performance, plus its exposure compensation while panning around is almost instantaneous. What we didn't like with the iPad mini 2 though is that its screen, when used as a viewfinder in video mode, underframes the scene significantly. When you go to the gallery to watch the captured footage, you realize there's much wider field of view recorded than what was visible on the display while filming. Not cool, Apple. The Apple iPad mini with Retina Display is perhaps the best small tablet money can buy at the moment, and it shows in the $400 basic price. It has an extremely high resolution display, this premium design, a blazing 64-bit chipset, very long battery life, and can take full advantage of more than 400,000 iOS apps written exclusively for tablets. The LG G-Pad 8.3 fights back with a lower $300 to $350 price tag, depending on the retailer, or whether you want the Google Play Edition version. The tablet still flaunts a great high-resolution display, this svelte design, and adds some extra abilities with the Air Blaster here at the top, plus a microSD card slot for storage expansion, cheaper than on the iPad mini upgrade. It, however, doesn't offer a version with cellular connectivity, while the iPad mini 2 can flaunt 14-band LTE radio, that's a record. The G-Pad's Android interface overlay offers some nifty features for easier multitasking, like the Q-Slide set of hovering apps and a widget system, both of which come very handy on a tablet. But the Play Store has yet to offer more apps that are written from the ground up for the large screen real estate on tablets. Thus, unless you deem the iPad mini 2 uncomfortable to hold, thanks to this wider chassis, with one hand in portrait orientation, or you need some of the extra G-Pad 8.3 features, like the Air Blaster for example, the iPad mini 2 with Retina Display is your better bet on a future-proof small tablet, if you can stomach the higher price tag, of course. This was a video comparison between the Apple iPad mini with Retina Display and the LG G-Pad 8.3 from Phone Arena. For more information about these and other tablets, you can visit us at phonearena.com. Thanks for watching.